created a couple of new workspaces and BloodHound templates for swing trading. I did one for crude oil and then one for the ES. I have 6 charts in these 2 workspaces. One 5-minute chart, which is the fastest chart, and I chose the 5 rather than the 10 so that, by the time the 5-minute bar closes, you may not potentially be as far away from the area by the time that bar closes as you would be on the 10-minute chart. You could set it up to run calculate on bar close false, and then the moment that you touch the area, as long as you're in agreement across the other charts, you would get this signal. If you set this to false, you see it's telling you that it's calculating on each incoming tick. So if you do that within BloodHound, they added in a new feature which optimizes the speed for calculate on bar close false. And when you set this to true, you have this setting here which gives you the maximum ticks processed per second. Okay, so really, in my opinion, 5 is even too much. You don't really need that. 1 tick per second is plenty. And it's telling you here, this is actually backwards. It should say decrease this value to reduce the processing burden. I think they had it named differently before or something, but this is incorrect. And Zach knows about that. I think they're going to change this in the next update. So if you set it to 1 tick per second, that's plenty fast enough. So then it would calculate 60 times per minute, which really isn't that much of a strain on the CPU. So I think you're fine running this calculate on bar close false and then setting the throttle to true 1 tick per second. I'll actually send it out like this because that's fine. We're really not doing too much inside of this template. All we're doing is loading that reader to read these market geometry areas. We've got 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So that's not much of a burden at all on Ninja. So this should run without, any kind of hiccups at all, without any kind of stalling whatsoever. So I have 2 different logic tabs, which you see up at the top here. It says strict. This is requiring that 3 areas be met on 3 different charts. All right, I have them split up into the really large charts, which are the 30,000 tick for crude oil, 240 minute, and then the medium, which would be the 30-minute RTH chart, and then the hourly ETH, electronically traded hours, which is, including the overnight session. RTH is the regular trading hours, just 9 to 2:30 for the crude day session, and then the faster charts, which would be the 5-minute and the 7,500. The 7,500 really isn't that fast at all. It's not really even comparable to the 5-minute, but I've elected to pair those 2 together. So you would need to have an area met on one of these 2 charts, an area met on one of these 2 charts, and an area met on one of these 2 charts for the signal to be met, for the signal to actually display. Okay, and then for the relaxed version, you're simply looking for 2 areas to be met on 2 different charts. And that could be one from either of these 4 charts, the 240-minute 30,000, or the 60-minute or the 30-minute RTH, together with an area from either the 5-minute or the 7,500 tick. Okay, so you'll probably get quite a few signals here from this relaxed version. But if you want to have several of these workspaces open, let's say 1 for each market, then you could run your areas, first thing in the morning, come back and check it and update the areas, let's say, once an hour or something like that, and turn your alerts to true. I think you can do email as well, although I'm not sure if they have done like I've done inside of the toolbar and used their own server, or, but anyway, you can get emails from BloodHound. You may have to set that up in Ninja. Yeah, you do. Okay, so they didn't use their own server. They used Ninja server, and that is kind of a pain to set up, and it's hit or miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I think probably best to just play an alert so that you get an audible alert if you have the alerts window open and you're just watching the alerts window and you had all of these workspaces open in the background, you could watch that one alert window after you've drawn in all the areas and then see when this BloodHound template is firing off on any one of the markets, and then bring that workspace, make it the active workspace, and then see if you're actually at a decent area. When it's set to relaxed, you may get quite a few more signals that may not necessarily be good signals, just depending on whether, you're running into some of these warning lines or median lines that maybe are not necessarily very good areas. But in this case, we have quite a few areas coming together down here at this low. This one happened to be an upper median line from the 30,000 tick chart as well. So let me just kind of go through the different charts and show you how this is working. Now, I haven't added in any direction to this thing whatsoever. So it's giving you simply true or false. Do you have a signal or not? And then you decide whether it's a long or a short based on the area that you're reaching, together with any other methods that you're using. If you're using, any of the oscillators or some other method, maybe Elliott wave or something to that effect, then you decide whether that would be the trade that you would want to take or not. So that's why I have painted the output yellow, which you can change if you want to. If you wanted to add in some of your own conditions into the BloodHound template, you can change this back to red and then the long back to lime green or whatever you want to use there. All right, so you have the 5 minute. That's the chart that BloodHound is on. You're not going to add this to any of the other charts. You just have it on the one chart, the 5 minute, and that's it. And then you want to draw in your areas on the other charts, one of which is the 7,500 tick. And you can see the area that we have right here. You just erase these fibs. So we have just a very obvious and clear trend line at that low. But we have so many other areas at this low as well. And that's what I mean about confluence in the market geometry. When you have all of these different areas coming together on different charts, it's really going to provide you with very high probability area of reversal. And that's what this is all about. Then we have here on the left, the hourly, and you can see the lower median line that we had here. We reversed off of it once already, and then the second time here. And then the 30-minute RTH, which you see the gaps in the overnight. This is only showing you 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. On my chart, it's obviously 8 to 1:30 since I'm Central time. Here we have the channel line from this high to high, which we came through here and here, but then came right back down to it right here. Now we also have a warning line of the trend channel line when connecting from this high to this high. Whoops, there we go. So we have the warning line coming in perfectly right there. The channel, after being broken here, began plotting again on this bar. And you can see we came through that. Didn't quite close below it actually. So pretty big reversal back up. It's really looking like it may actually continue higher. But we've had, and I'll show you on the 240-minute chart, we've had a hit of this trend line, this uptrend line on the 240 3 times in a row. That's somewhat odd looking. I don't think that I've ever seen that on a larger chart quite like this. So I guess until we fail, we're still in an uptrend. So I'm just kind of thinking that it will fail as we've been making this kind of rounded top here and not quite able to reach the top of this trend channel, which is a very steep trend channel nonetheless, but I'm kind of thinking it's about to fail. So anyhow, you have the trend line there as well, which really is the main area as we pulled back to the baseline here. And then you have the 30,000 tick on the right. So we have a total of 6 charts, 30,000 tick, 240-minute, 60-minute, 30-minute RTH, and then the 7,500 tick. and then finally the 5-minute chart on which we have the BloodHound template. Okay, and you can see that we pulled back to the channel line right here, which looks fairly similar. Well, it's almost identical to the channel that we had on the 30-minute RTH chart. All right, so that's it. I have the RSI on here. It's not being used inside of the BloodHound template. If you don't like it, you don't want it, you can just remove it. Add anything that you want to use, any indicators that you're already using or are familiar with, and just use that BloodHound template to help you find these areas of confluence. And if you want to, of course, you could add in your own conditions with whatever indicators into that BloodHound template. If you do that, though, you'll want to go ahead and resave the BloodHound template to another name. You could do that to, whatever you want, and then add in your conditions. So you want to keep this one as it is. So if you do make any changes, just rename it. Simply File, Save As, type in whatever name you want, and then you can mess around with it as you wish. And again, you have the two different logic tabs here. All right, one is strict, one is a little more relaxed, and you can change those up here at the top. Okay, relaxed, strict, and then you can edit, which opens up the user interface, and then you can come back and change these to whatever you want. Okay, right now they're looking at all of the market geometry lines. If you wanted to add in some other area, one specific market geometry line, or some of the areas from the volume profile or the VWAP, you simply copy one of these solvers, copy, and then change the name to whatever. Set the chart that you're wanting to read from, how many tick threshold you want to allow. So for the 240-minute chart, I'm allowing 14 ticks because it is such a large chart, and 14 ticks on the 240-minute chart doesn't look like a very big area at all relative to the size of the bars. So I am allowing about 14 ticks so that if it does overthrow a little bit or not quite reach the area, you're still going to get that signal. And then we're reading the bars from the base chart, which is the 5-minute chart. Okay, and we're using the full length of the bar. So whenever a bar is touching an area, then you get the signal. Any part of the bar, not just the closing price. You could elect to use the closing price, but I'm electing to use the full bar. And you can change that data series here to whichever area you want to read, whether it be one of the updating profiles or a static profile or any specific market geometry line. But really just using all lines together will give you more signals, but they may not necessarily be, very accurate signals depending upon how many areas you do have coming together at that time and price, and depending on whether or not you've drawn in useful channels or not. So there is a kind of finesse to how you're drawing these areas. And of course you want to use major swings and not simply just, random bars. You typically want to use the larger swings and draw them in accordingly. So here we had an area coming together as well. So yeah, we got that low perfectly as well, which was coming off of that main trend line on the 240-minute chart and the lower median line on the 60-minute chart. So if you have any questions, just write into support and we'll get those answered for you.